yawning immediately.
Welcome.
Welcome. I started yawning as soon as we
You
started
passed it
recording.
to me now. I feel like I'm gonna
Sorry.
yawn.
Yeah. One
Okay,
of
we're not
those
that tired.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, it is one of those days.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back. I'm Olivia,
And I'm Amy. And this
and this
is
is Girls
Girls
Gone
Gone Spooky.
Spooky.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Feeling spooky today.
Um, Feeling very spooky. I'm excited about this topic. I say this every week. I'm excited about this topic.
But it's
But this
true.
one's funny. Yeah, this one so we have a doc, everyone, where we put in ideas for future episode themes. And I came across some Reddit story that, by the way, I didn't even save, so it's not even included in this one.
Okay.
But I found a bunch of other good stuff. But I just put it in the doc as pregnancy related hauntings ? And Amy was like, what the fuck is that? I was like, listen, there's weirdly a lot, and you probably found there's weirdly a lot.
Yes, there is a lot. Yeah.
A lot.
Guess I'm not that surprised, but
Yeah, perhaps not.
it is, interesting.
It's interesting.
And
It's
so many
definitely
people
interesting.
have shared their stories, which is another interesting thing.
Totally. There were so many that I had to go back and delete some that I didn't want to delete. I wanted to share, but I was like, I just have way too much content, so I had to scale back.
Right. Yeah. Oh boy.
But I'm curious what you think about because I wanted to start by with a quick conversation about the why, because it seems like my stories and the ones I'm sharing today and the ones that I just came across and didn't have time to include are run the gamut of everything. It's their children, living children, not fetuses, are predicting parents' pregnancies and having dreams of their unborn child and visitations by family members who are deceased, and then also way creepy stuff like a demon wanting your baby.
Yeah.
And there are so many theories as to why, because some of the people will preface and be like, I have always been in touch with this side of, the veil or whatever. And then others are like, I have literally never experienced anything like this ever in my whole life until the moment I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think? What do you think it is?
Well, I saw some that were saying you're creating a new life. So it makes sense that the veil or whatever would be thinner at that time. But then it's does that imply that you need to believe in reincarnation for that to make sense? Because it's somebody that already had a life and passed is now crossing back to the other side. But I don't know. And it's,
or it who knows the logistics technically of how the afterlife works, but or is it that the afterlife isn't just after, it's new souls are created in the same place where deceased souls live on, or whatever, in whatever way you want to frame that. I thought that was really that I came across that too, and I thought that was really interesting. And some of it is definitely reincarnation. It's literally the soul is waiting to interact with you because it knows it's gonna be yours.
I kind of like that thought.
I know, I like it too.
Gives me peace for some reason.
I know, it's really sweet. But then others say it's purely, I mean, this implies that the paranormal world is also accepted as a factual part of our lives, which obviously not everyone believes that, but others say that it's heightened hormones. You're just in the same way that, for example, children are thought to be more sensitive to spirits and things like that, that one, you have a child in you. So if that child is maybe going to be like clairvoyant, that maybe you're kind of like getting some of their abilities passed to you, or that just in having more hormones and going through this huge bodily change, you're just like more susceptible to some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting thought too.
Yeah, I thought so too. Let me see. I wanted to pull up. Oh yeah. So there was one, there were a bunch of like theories that people had, and I think we've like kind of covered most of them. But like, so I'm just gonna like start reading some of these, but I liked a lot of the theories in the comments of this one, and it's a quick one. Cool. It's from ML Munoz on Reddit, of course. And they say, it's titled Paranormal Experiences Only While Pregnant. I've never believed in ghosts or anything like that until I was pregnant with my daughter. From the very beginning of that pregnancy, shit started happening. Cupboards would fly open, doors would slam by themselves, stuff like that. It was unsettling, but I always brushed it off. After a few months, it progressed to where I could see spirits or ghosts or whatever you want to call them, and they were everywhere, and they wouldn't leave me alone. I'd see them standing behind me in the mirror.
No, that's straight out of a horror movie.
It gets worse. Peeking around corners, watching me sleep, and reaching for me always. So they're reaching for her. I was like, no, that's enough of that. She says, I started having horrible nightmares every night about my deceased grandmother too, where her body was possessed and she tried to kill me. It was honestly terrifying. And I sort of thought I was losing my mind until my husband started to see the entities too.
Whoa. Weird.
Yeah. We ended up actually moving apartments, hoping that this would solve the problem. I delivered our daughter almost immediately after moving, and we hadn't experienced anything paranormal since then. Fast forward a little while, and I am pregnant again. I am starting to notice some of the same things as last time. Cupboards opening, toilet flushing by itself, etc. So my question is, why is this stuff happening only when I'm pregnant? Has anyone else ever had a similar experience? And the first comment was like, or the top comment, I guess, was like, maybe your children are sensitive to the paranormal. Right. And that's like transferred. And what I thought was interesting is not just to her, but to the husband.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Which is so interesting. Like almost just the presence of that to-be child created more activity.
Right. Weird. And
so weird.
Yeah. The dad, that is because he's so, I mean, obviously it's his child, but it's like more external to this baby than the mother would be. So it's, it affects everyone. That's interesting.
Totally. And then someone else, the way they said it is so dramatic, but it's a similar concept, is like to, just the veil being thinner for you is they said, because you're the portal between worlds, between life and death, which like,
that's pretty crazy.
Jesus.
What a perspective.
Yeah. And then some people say, and this like definitely comes from like a more religious angle, I would say. Someone said, I think it's because you're carrying an innocent child, non-baptized, and of course, virgin. So basically, these spirits are fucking with you, trying to stress you out, not because, they said something weird here, but basically like trying to stress you out and like access the child, essentially, which I hate.
Yeah. That is scary. I wonder why.
Yeah,
though. Why would they do that?
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Like if Satan's aim is to corrupt as many innocent souls as he can, I mean, how much more innocent does it get? Yeah. Start when they're defenseless, essentially. And then the other thing I thought was so interesting in the comments is a bunch of people said something along the lines of like, I've also had a lot of paranormal experiences while pregnant and never when not pregnant.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
That
fucking
is
weird.
fascinating. Mm-hmm.
It's so weird.
I'm
So,
nervous for that if and when I have a baby. I feel like they're gonna be
yeah,
weird. They're gonna be like a weird little medium baby.
probably. Yeah.
Mhm.
Jesus. Yeah. Honestly, you're going to have like, what's that? What's that show with Jennifer Love Hewitt? I loved that show. Uh,
I don't know.
shit. It was like a really famous parent ghost. Okay, I'll find it.
Okay,
I'll remember. But
I'm blanking.
yeah, she plays like a medium basically where let me see if I can find it really quick because it was like
Okay.
really fun. Let me see. Damn, Jennifer Love Hewitt is 44 years old now. Ghost Whisperer.
Oh, I don't think I've ever even heard of
Ghost
that.
Whisperer. Ah, it's actually kind of scary though. It might be a little
Okay.
scary for you.
Bit too much.
Um, it's good though. The intro alone is creepy. Like it's
Okay.
very creepy. I used
Hmm.
to like binge watch it when I was in middle school.
Spooky.
Classic.
Yeah, typical.
Yeah, it's very typical. Okay, should I just keep going?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I've got some good ones. Okay.
Okay.
So this is from The Flow, yo.
Love it.
Titled Ghosts During Pregnancies. And they say, so I've had my fair share of experiences with the paranormal. And by fair share, I just mean a few, but a few that were sort of undeniably, quote unquote, something. It's been a thing in my family that a ghost comes around whenever someone in our family gets pregnant. Usually it tends to play with toys and the like. I've absolutely heard typing on various computers around my house when I've been home alone. We hear footsteps where they shouldn't be in the house all the time. TVs will turn on in rooms where we aren't there. Some of these things happen even when there isn't a pregnancy, but shit gets super amped up when there is. My mom's theory is that she was supposed to have an older sister who died in labor from the umbilical cord wrapping around her neck. And that she comes around whenever we're about to add a new family member, which is actually like really sweet.
Yeah.
My younger brother had a baby recently, 1 year ago. And this was 8 years ago, so this is a while. And right around when his girlfriend would have gotten pregnant, we both saw some weird little foggy, blurry, spirally thing in the same spot on the same morning at separate times. It was so completely fucking weird that I brought it up at dinner a few days later as I had tried to rationalize it for a few days. And my brother basically stopped me mid sentence before I even said what happened and described the exact same swirly things. A few months later, out pops his baby.
Wow.
That was more strange and kind of cool than anything, unlike my most recent experience, which sort of prompted me to finally make an account here after years of lurking. The other night, as cliche as it sounds, I come out of my room around 3 a.m. and a little girl laughs, literally from just beyond my basement door, like she would have been standing right on the other side of the door, which is next to my room. And noises always seem to come from my basement around that time. Again, cliche, I know. I honestly think it might have been one of my nephew's toys, especially considering it happened as soon as I came out of my room. Maybe my presence or the sound of me opening my door in such a quiet house activated the toy. But my mom said that she had heard a little girl laughing recently also. And we haven't been able to pinpoint a toy that laughs like a little girl straight out of a horror movie. That night, multiple toys did start activating on their own, though, but it all started with the little girl's laugh. I kind of disregarded all the other toys going off because it's not that uncommon of an occurrence, but I honestly have been so creeped out. I've never been so creeped out in my life than when I heard that laugh immediately upon exiting my room. It completely froze me, and it's not the first time I'd heard something like that, but I'd never heard it so loud and right next to me. I'm not too scared because it seems to be more playful and loving than any sort of evil kind of presence. But my brother also said he's been hearing things lately. So basically, the joke around my house has been to figure out who's pregnant. And we really think it could be my sister, who we don't speak to very often. Either way, it's not exactly scary, being as we all seem to think it's my mother's deceased older sister. I've had another theory, though. It might be less probable. Maybe the future baby's spirits are sort of entering our lives in spirit form before they're born, kind of letting us know they're on their way. Or their energy maybe is flying around here already. I don't know. I just think if they're actual ghosts, the quote science end quote behind it is certainly beyond our comprehension. And I think the possibilities for what these things might be are endless. So then they go on to ask, like, has anyone else had some kind of like situation like this, whatever? And someone was like joking around, but was like, interestingly, the idea of like babies like letting you know they're on their way. They're like, interestingly, that's the plot of the Asian horror film The Eye too.
Oh.
I was like, what? But they go on to explain it. They say a girl that acquires the power to see ghosts after she attempts to unalive herself starts to notice that every pregnant woman has a ghost at their side. At some point, she realizes that the ghosts aren't ghosts. They're the souls of the babies waiting for their own births, which is like so sweet.
Yeah.
Some of them are reincarnations. For instance, the dead father of one of the women reincarnates as his own grandson, which is like so like sweet. But what she said, the original poster said, is like that this theory of like the spirit of the baby coming before. She was like, that only really became plausible to me when I saw that blurry whoosh thing that I saw, because it was like, it just seemed more like a consciousness almost than a ghost. So super interesting.
Yeah, very. Yeah. With this topic, it was hard not to veer too much into reincarnation again. That's like one of my favorite topics.
Me too. Is so interesting.
Yeah.
And like there seems to be so much evidence for it.
Yeah. Especially with the tendency, at least some people were writing this, that you reincarnate into the same soul group over and over again. Yeah. So like you could come back as your own daughter or whatever. Like you come back as your grandpa. It's interesting.
It's so interesting. Yeah. And then there's one last thing that two actually last things on this. So there was another poster, Little White Bird, who said, my mother had a psychic friend who said the veil between this plane of existence and the plane of spirits, including human souls, and the plane that humans come from, becomes easier to pass through when a fetus is being carried in the womb. I mean, this part's interesting. Basically, until the fetus is viable, the pregnant woman is maintaining an open connection between one dimension and the other. That explanation makes so much more sense to me, because I was like, I don't really understand, like, yes, you're creating life, but why does that make the veil thin unless it's exclusively reincarnation? But I like that explanation, because it's like you have to hold the door open basically in order to like get more life. Yeah.
More
life.
Yeah. Me more life.
More life. But then the other thing that they added was like, but the downside is other things can sneak through too. So it's like, maybe it's the spirit of the baby, maybe it's something else that's coming through. So creepy. And then the original poster, just to bring this full circle, says, update, my sister is pregnant. LOL.
Whoa, weird.
So I mean, it's like so predictable that that happens for them.
Yeah, crazy.
So okay, my next one is from Meriwether JS, and they titled this "Increase in Activity During Pregnancy." I like how they all put a question mark.
Yeah,
they're like, "Is this what's happening?"
I don't know if I want to know.
I don't know what's going on. So they say, "Hi everyone, my daughter is now 3 years old, but when I was pregnant with her, I experienced an increase in activity. It felt mostly sort of like warnings or premonitions, but I also felt like someone, I don't know who, was trying to get my attention. I've always felt like I'm a bit clairaudient, so hearing certain noises isn't too out of the ordinary for me, but it does not happen as often now as it did when I was younger. For a period of time, maybe about 2 weeks during my pregnancy, I was woken up by bells at exactly 4:30 every morning. Bells like the ones you would hear at a restaurant when an order is up. I would hear about 3 or 4 bells going at the same time, but they were kind of muted sounding. I still don't know what the purpose of this was, who was trying to get my attention, or why it was happening at the same time each morning. But I also experienced whistle sounds. One night in particular, there were some bad thunderstorms, and I was woken up by a whistle, almost like a coach's whistle. I immediately got up and felt like I needed to go to the living room. And when I got to the living room, a tornado siren started going off. It was like a warning to me that the siren was going to go off and I needed to get up.
Oh.
Anyway, I know that's not entirely paranormal, but it did feel like a premonition and maybe something otherworldly. And then she says, like, I was just curious if any other women had similar experiences, and like 100% yes.
Yes.
So it's weird because some of them seem like the baby. Some of them seem like maybe a deceased family member or someone like a guardian angel kind of type. And then others don't seem so great.
So nice.
So we'll get to that.
Oh God. Scary.
Yeah, scary. So this one is from Belagarth Othild. I don't know if that's actually their name. If it is, that's fucking epic. Belagarth Othild.
Yeah, that's a medieval name.
It is. It's very Game of Thrones. I love it. This is paranormal during pregnancy. No punctuation. We appreciate their confidence.
Okay. Yeah. This is it.
So Belagarth says, okay, my husband has shown me this place tonight, and I figured I had to share it. And by this place, they mean the paranormal subreddit on Reddit.
Yeah.
I'm new to Reddit, and this is my first post. So if I'm not following the rules, let me know. This all happened 2 years ago when I was pregnant with my daughter. I experienced a slew of paranormal events up until around 34 weeks or so. I've experienced paranormal events my whole life, but this was like 500 times more intense than it has ever been any other time of my life. And this one has to be the absolute scariest. In my first trimester, I began to feel super uneasy when I was alone. My roommate, the one I shared a room with, had just moved out, and I worked swing, so everyone else in the house was asleep, working, or out whenever I was home. And by feel super uneasy, I mean like I felt people watching me, and I would get these cold and hot flashes fairly often, but hey, that could just have been pregnancy. One night, after a bit of that glorious morning sickness, I went to bed and shut my eyes in the vain hope that sleep could relieve my nausea. But as I settled in, I began to feel very strange. My body became stiff as a board, and I felt my joints freeze as if they had been superglued. I couldn't even open my eyes. And the next thing I knew, the room was freezing. I had a room in the basement, but it felt like I was sitting in a snowbank. Now, my eyes weren't open, so I can't really fully confirm this, but I felt as if my body was rising from the bed, as if I was levitating. I could feel the blankets draping down and swaying beneath me. I rose until I felt the cold ceiling press against my face.
Oh my God.
To the ceiling from her bed.
Whoa.
Naturally, at this part, my heart was absolutely pounding, and I was freaking out something fierce. Although I was in no way able to fight back, I had this sensation of, I need to protect my kid. So I kept repeating in my mind, you can't have my baby, over and over again.
Oh my God.
Which gives me full body chills, dude.
Oh God.
You can't have my baby. After what felt like an eternity, I was lowered back to my bed, and soon after, I could move again. I know that it could have been a dream, and pregnancy dreams are notoriously intense, but I swear to God, I was awake the whole time. I hadn't fallen asleep before this. The next night, I saw a blue orb in another part of my basement. I don't know what that was, but maybe some of you might know. I can't help but think it was somehow related.
Yeah. I wouldn't
You
be
can't
surprised.
have my baby.
No.
No,
I wonder,
don't like it.
Yeah, like how did she get that sensation that that's what she needed to say? That would be so scary.
I don't know. That'd be so scary, though. Wow. The whole thing would be you feeling your face against the ceiling.
Yeah. No.
Good thing she didn't have a ceiling fan.
Oh, good point. Even more of a disaster.
Truly. Okay, I have two more. This one's from X-Ray Music Mama, and it is titled "Activity Started When I Was Pregnant" in all caps.
Pregnant.
No punctuation. The most confidence we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she says, "Is this a thing?" While I was pregnant in mid-2020, we moved my daughter into the old living room upstairs of our 1910 house that used to be a two-family. We painted, decorated the whole shebang for a 3-year-old big girl, in quotes, room, so we could make space for baby number 2. That's when things got weird. My pregnant self would frequently sleep on the roll-out trundle bed in my daughter's room with my daughter because it was really the only comfortable place for me to sleep as a preggers, she calls herself. One night, my daughter said she heard something, and I thought it was my legs moving in the bed beneath her trying to get comfy for the night, but she said no. I told her to go back to sleep, and no more than 2 minutes later, something pulled my ponytail up and behind my head hard.
Whoa.
There was no one behind me as I was facing my daughter's bed and her above me, and I wasn't moving. And she then heard something again, and I said she could sleep with me for the rest of the night. Sometime before the baby was born, I was then folding clothes in my daughter's newly renovated room and felt a tug at my shirt near my butt. Reminded me of the no thank you story. No thank you. I was alone upstairs doing laundry, ... When the baby was born, my husband went to get more diapers in the baby's room and walked into the rocking chair in full swing.
Oh, God.
And only a couple nights ago, my hubby was sleeping in my eldest daughter's room, the renovated one, while I slept with the baby in our room. Our oldest daughter was sleeping at her grandma's house, and he had both pillows in hand and refused to go back into the room. After finally getting it out of him, he said he saw the pink large exercise ball move across the room about 4 feet. We all slept together that night. The baby was not going in her crib. I know I sound a little scared, but I'm more intrigued that the spirit in the house feels nice or like a child, maybe. This house is old, and we have found old gas pipes in the wall for gas lights from back in the day. Am I crazy? Is this paranormal or something else? Is there a little kid spirit messing with us? So,
interesting.
People had some theories about this one, which was like, how intensive was the renovation? Like, big changes can rile up spirits that may otherwise have been kind of passive, or something could have been moved or removed during the remodel, and need to be like put back and kind of apologized for. And then also, like, when setting up the room, if there were any like vintage or secondhand things brought into the house, of course. And then the stress of the older daughter being moved into a new space could have been enough to draw something in to kind of like feed on her anxiety, which I hate. But, and then the one final thought, they said it's like, it is possible it's the ghost of a child, but it seems kind of unlikely because most encounters with a child spirit, as we know, are not actually children. They're something darker. So
yikes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very yikes. And then like everyone else in the comments was like, I wouldn't trust that it's a child. It's probably not a child.
That's good advice.
Yikes. Yeah, seriously.
But that writer, she said, I know I sound scared or something, but I was thinking that whole time, when people are writing these stories, it seems so nonchalant. They're like, and so then calm. I went back to bed. It's like, how?
Right. And you're like, how?
Burn the house I'd be like, down.
Literally, I'd be running out screaming, 100%. Well, you're really going to feel this one.
Okay.
Feel this next one. This is my last one. Yeah. So this is from Aurelia Mummy, and it's called It Wanted Our Baby.
Oh, no. I hate it already.
Yeah. Bit of a weird story, but here we go. My husband and I went to his family's cabin, and I loved the idea. It was in Bournemouth, the New Forest. I don't know what that means, but they're in some place called Bournemouth.
Yeah.
So we settled in, and then his parents came over. They've been having lockdown at theirs, and since restrictions had been lifted, we could meet up in small groups outside. So this was obviously mid-COVID.
Yeah.
They lived only a 10 to 15-minute drive away from where we were. And anyway, it's important to point out that I'm 24 weeks pregnant at this point. The first night we had unpacked for the week, and I went for my 2-hour daily nap while everyone else went food shopping for the barbecue that night. It was just me in the cabin, and I was enjoying the fact that I could sleep without any disruptions. For example, people coming into the room to check on me, asking if I need a drink, etc. And I had the weirdest dream. In my dream, a black hooded being, I don't know, I couldn't see its face, but it sort of glided into the room. And all I could hear was, "We need your baby," over and over, sort of growled at me by this whatever it was. I woke up in a cold sweat and was like, oh boy, pregnancy dreams sure are getting crazy. I went downstairs and tried to ignore it. A few hours later, after food and just relaxing by the fire, I'd totally forgotten about it and chalked it up to all the commotion of the day. Time for bed comes round, and as usual, I was the first one to sleep. My husband was on his iPad and sat up in bed as I was cuddled into his lap. In the morning, I woke up to commotion outside, and he was packing things away. Going downstairs, I asked what's going on. My mind straight away went to him going fishing or doing something with his dad now that it was allowed. And he just told me to get into the car as he's nearly finished, and we'll explain on the way. Well, we're back at home now. And on the way back, he said I was very much asleep on him, and he rolled me over onto the other side of the bed. But as he went to turn off the lamp next to him, he saw a shadowy, cloaked figure in the darkness just on the stairs staring at us.
No.
He told me he did a double take and it was still there. He's telling me the story while he's driving, and he says it was the craziest thing. I kept getting this, I don't know, thought, this order that it wanted our baby. It needed our baby. He got up and charged at the thing, and he says it almost like folded on itself and disappeared. Whoa. He didn't sleep the whole night and left the lights on until morning, and that's when I woke up. I ended up telling him about my weird dream, and we both decided that we are never going back there. I just thought that I was crazy, but obviously not. His parents were a bit disappointed that we rushed off as they had things planned for us. We have no idea what it was, and I don't know if it fits, but we later found out that his little brother had taken some friends to the cabin, gotten drunk, and did a Ouija board there a few weeks before we arrived.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. They let something in.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So.
That's terrifying. Wow.
Yeah. Gross. Gross.
Yeah, very gross. I hope her parents or his parents were understanding.
Yeah, that was my feeling too. Oh my God, yeah. Like, yikes. Urgent.
Yeah. No choice.
So anyway, those are my stories.
Whoa. Weird.
Nice and creepy.
Yeah, very. So I took a different direction a little bit.
Oh, good. That's perfect.
Let's see, where did they go? Okay. So yeah, I looked more at children that have, they're pregnancy related, like the predicting that their mom is pregnant without knowing anything kind of story. So let me find where I put them.
Yeah, that's an interesting, there were so many of those. How do you know? How could they know?
I don't know. But yeah, let's read a couple of them. So this is, of course, Reddit as well. From Underpaid Milkmaid, which is funny.
AKA a mom.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Hilarious.
So she says, now, I'm not sure if this is the proper subreddit to post this, but this happened a couple months ago and has my husband and I questioning our beliefs. We are not religious people, never have been to church, and do not follow any sort of structured religion. Our daughter will be 2 in November and is exceptional when it comes to her ability to communicate. She even tells us things that we've never exposed her to yet, like birth and where babies come from.
Oh.
On July 4th, we were visiting family, and she randomly stood up from her toys, walked over to me, lifted my shirt, and said, "Hi, baby." Then walked back to her toys like nothing had happened. I was a bit stunned and asked my husband if he had taught her that. He said no. Then we went on to ask her grandparents who were with us, and they also had never mentioned that or the fact that they grow in women's bellies before or mentioned that babies grow.
Oh, wow.
I tried to just laugh it off, thinking that she may have seen that on Sesame Street or another show like that. About 2 weeks later, I started feeling funky and tired. Mentioned it to my husband and decided that I should take a test. A big fat positive stared me right in the face. We were shocked, to say the least. And our daughter had accurately predicted our pregnancy nearly at the same time as conception. And now she's always talking to the baby, calling her sister baby, and saying that sister baby and her have been friends forever. We do not know the gender yet, but if it turns out to be a girl, I think I may actually lose it. So
Oh my
that was
God.
posted, unfortunately, like 8 years ago, and
Oh,
there
okay.
was no update about whether or not it was a
Mm.
girl. But
I'm sure it was.
yeah,
Like, oh my
yeah,
God.
crazy.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, and
And
there,
how do you like discount that?
yeah,
Like,
you can't really,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I guess if she saw something like on television about a woman being pregnant or like saw a pregnant woman and maybe
hmm,
like someone else explained it to her, like, oh, they're going to have a baby. Like,
yeah,
but
right,
why would she, like the odds of her doing that to the mom right when they got pregnant is
yeah,
like, what?
yeah. It's
That's
very
wild.
strange. And again, there were so many people in that comment section saying, "This happened to me too."
Yeah.
And I should have copied some of them down, but I know one of them had older kids actually, which was interesting. I think they were 5 or 6 and 7. And
Mhm.
she was pregnant and she knew it, and so did her husband. But the
Mhm.
kids, they hadn't told them yet.
Yeah.
And they also did the same thing, like came up, lifted her shirt up and were like rubbing her belly. We're like, "I'm having a brother," or whatever. And she was like, "How do you
What?
know that?" And she didn't even
Yeah.
confirm it, but then found out that the kids had told their friends, like, "I'm having a baby brother," without knowing that
Oh,
she was pregnant. So
what?
yeah, and she wasn't showing yet, I guess, and she was, like, trying to hide it and saying, like, "Oh, just
Right.
have a food baby from
Yeah,
lunchtime,"
totally.
but they knew somehow. So, I
That's
don't know.
wild.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
And then so someone in that same comment section, they were Peaches9057. It's not
Mhm.
totally pregnancy related, but this led me to
Mhm.
my next topic. But what she wrote, or they
Yeah.
wrote, was, "My nephew is 6 and he does stuff like this all the time. He will say helicopter, and within the next 5 minutes or so, a helicopter will fly by. We really only
What?
have Mercy flight helicopters, so they aren't common around here. He will also tell my
What?
mom, 'Grandpa's coming home,' and then within a few minutes, my dad will come home. He doesn't have a set schedule, so it's hard to predict when he will come." And he's done these predictions
What?
dozens of times. So, I
That
don't
is
know.
mind-blowing.
I know. And that is what led me to this next part because have you
Yeah.
heard of indigo children?
No.
Okay. So that is like, well, I'll explain what it is, but they believe that indigo children are highly receptive, intuitive, like psychic almost children. So here's the story. So indigo children were first described in the 1970s by a parapsychologist named Nancy Ann Tapp, who noticed the
Mm.
emergence of children with an indigo colored aura, a vibrational color that she had
Oh.
never seen before. And so this color, she reasoned, coincided with a new consciousness. So yeah,
Wow.
there's some controversy. Well, not controversy, but some good discussion to be had about this. So I'll get to that.
Yeah.
But Her ideas were further developed by Lee Carroll and Jan Tober, and those two wrote a book called The Indigo Children. And they defined the phenomenon as that indigo children share traits like being highly empathetic, curious, and strong willed, are often perceived by friends and family as being strange, um, possess a clear sense of self definition and purpose, show a strong innate subconscious spirituality from early childhood, have a strong feeling of entitlement or deserving to be here, high IQ, inherent intuitive and like psychic basically ability, and resistance to rigid control based paradigms of authority. So,
Oh my God, how interesting.
yeah.
It sounds like you minus the entitlement and the strangeness.
I would venture to say the strangeness is fair as well. A weird child.
Well,
Weird
yeah,
adult too.
I'm also weird. So yeah, all around weirdos. But
I don't think we'd be friends if we weren't both the same kind of
true.
weird.
We say while recording our paranormal.
Yeah.
I can't remember, was your aura green or blue or like a mix?
I think it was more green, tended to
More
more
green.
green. But
because mine I think is blue purple, but more purple.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like crown chakra, which I have issues with, like feeling grounded, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you're an air sign floating above.
Floating like one of those car dealership balloons.
I love it.
That's me.
They have the best
I'm supposed
time.
to sit on the ground. Yeah, I'm supposed to sit on the ground and walk barefoot a lot, but do I do that? No.
Oh, well.
She sits on a throne, baby.
I love that. Yep.
Not really. It's like a squeaky desk chair, but
whatever.
Same difference. It's all up here, you know.
Exactly.
It's on my mind.
It's what you make it. So
if you can dream it, you can do it.
Exactly.
So corny.
So, okay, back to these indigo children just a little bit.
Yes.
So children with these characteristics are often diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. So skeptics say that this concept of indigo children is like wishful thinking and it's just new agey, whatever.
Of course.
And this Russell Barkley, who's a research professor of psychiatry at State University of New York in Syracuse, he said, all of us would prefer not to have our kids labeled with a psychiatric disorder. But the indigo child is a sham diagnosis, he said. There's no science behind it. There are no studies about it. And I see why. Like, you can't really study that in a scientific manner necessarily. But he also said parents who attribute their children's inattention or disruptive behavior to vibrational energy risk delaying proper diagnosis and treatment that might help them.
Which, like, I get on one hand, and on the other hand, like, medication nation was a thing.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of kids got Ritalin that shouldn't have.
Yes.
Because they just were, like, hyper kids.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I went to Reddit after I read that because I wanted to see if people had their own stories about being an indigo child or if people told them that. And I was surprised not to find any that were like positive almost at all. There was one from Heartache AF who wrote, my mother told me people used to consider me an indigo child, especially because I had special interests in environmentalism and science. As you can guess, I didn't save the world and only got diagnosed with autism in my mid-20s, LOL.
Damn it. I mean, it's almost like it's almost like it got twisted into like you're a hippie kid.
Yes,
a little odd, you know. It's like
it
Yeah, it didn't get like accepted as something legitimate, and so it wasn't used
Mhm.
legitimately.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. And somebody commented on that thread, and it was short but interesting. It's plastic in a Y man jar. So they
Okay.
wrote, yes, yes, my mom and aunt were and still are convinced I was an indigo, possibly crystal child, which I
Oh.
didn't look into that deeply, but I think crystal child was more like kids who were on the autism spectrum,
Uh, okay.
as opposed to ADHD or ADD. And then
Yeah.
there was also a theory called star seeds, which I did not look into at all, but it was the same lady that talked about astral projection a lot, like her life's
Yeah.
work. Um, so that could be interesting for the future. But anyway,
Yeah.
this person was saying possibly a crystal child. That was the only explanation for a creative, intelligent, sensitive, and contrarian or disobedient girl in the 90s, since only boys were
Mhm.
diagnosed
Yeah.
as autistic. So,
Yeah.
kind of interesting. Um, but obviously, a lot of people do believe in this possibility of indigo children.
Mhm.
Um,
Do you
and
grow up to be an indigo adult, or is it just like a pre-pubescent thing?
I think you can grow into an indigo adult, but I didn't look at that too much.
Probably depends on your environment.
Yeah, I just saw the suggestion on Google when I was looking at all of these that one of them was like, signs you're an indigo woman. So I didn't click on it,
Okay,
but I
so there is.
assume. Yeah. So, let's see. To indigos and their parents, however, such skepticism is just the usual resistance to any new and revolutionary idea. And this is from a New York Times article, actually.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah, America has always had a soft spot for the supernatural. A November 2005 poll by Harris Interactive found that 1 American in 5 believes he or she has been reincarnated.
Hmm.
40% believe in ghosts, and 68% believe in angels. It's
Hmm.
not surprising then that indigo literature, which incorporates some of these beliefs along with common anxieties about child psychology, has found a receptive audience. So then they talked to someone named Annette Piper, a mother of 2 in Memphis, said that she had planned to go to medical school. So she herself identifies as an indigo child or indigo woman, I guess.
Yeah.
So she said she planned to go to medical school until she realized she was an indigo, able to tell what was wrong with people just by touching them. Like a lot of
Oh.
others who describe themselves as indigos, she was also sensitive to chemicals and fluorescent lights. So
Hmm. Same.
instead of, yeah, same. Instead of going to medical school, she became an intuitive healer, directing the energy fields around people and opened a new age store.
Oh,
And
cool.
her daughter, Alexandra, who is 10 at the time of the article, is also an indigo, she said. They play games to cultivate their telepathic powers, but at school, Alexandra struggles. Miss Piper
Hmm.
said she has trouble finishing work in school and wants to argue with the teacher if she thinks she's right. I don't think she's found out what her gifts are. From the influence in school and friends, she lays off these abilities. She's a little afraid of them.
Well, it sounds like she has either ADHD or maybe is on the spectrum. But
Right.
what's so interesting to me that just dawned on me is like that so much of this like spiritual connection or like paranormal ability, psychic ability, it's almost always paired with some kind of like mental um diagnosis. I don't even want to say disorder, but
Yeah.
like ADHD, autism, epilepsy, like
Mhm.
that all the shamans were epileptic.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't seem like a coincidence to me. That
Right.
seems like you're whatever that stat is. I don't even know if it's true that we only use 10% of our brains or whatever, but like there's a lot that's probably untapped, even if it's higher, even if it's 99%, like what's the other 1% doing?
Yeah.
So
good question.
It's interesting.
It is interesting. And yeah, I guess I get why it's easy to mistake or accept. It's easier to accept the science, like this probably is autism or this probably is ADHD or whatever. But I like the alternative possibility too.
And why can't it be both? I guess that's my point, is like, why does having autism rule out the possibility that you have these other abilities? Like, that seems like kind of ableist if you think about it. Like, well, I can't do that. There's no way that this person can because they're just autistic. Like, what?
Yeah, true.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I looked up star seeds just briefly, and I found an article by Jade Scarfone on Medium that says a starseed is said to be an advanced spiritual being, originated from other planets and realms and possessing spiritual and scientific knowledge dating back hundreds of thousands of years. From most of the information I have gathered, she says, it is said that starseeds are souls traveling from other planets. They are incarnated on Earth to inspire and heal human beings, to bring light and knowledge that will uplift the human race, and are here to participate in awakening others' consciousness to help the planet's evolution. So they agree to come to Earth, essentially like these souls from other places agree to come to Earth to fulfill their mission. However, when they get here, they're made to forget their true origins, and many go through their existence on Earth without knowing where their souls really came from. They forget their homes and their missions, but once they awaken, they'll see clearly what they must do, and that's when they start to live out their purpose. And there are people who there's like psychologists have weighed in on people who literally feel like they are an alien, like their soul is alien to Earth, which is so fascinating.
Yeah, it is. Wow. Interesting.
Sounds like Kyle XY, to be totally honest.
Yeah, it does.
You think that too? No belly button.
Yeah. That's so funny that you say that. We went to trivia the other night, and one of the questions was whether the original E.T. poster had nipples.
Oh my God.
What do you think?
It should be no.
It was not. He did not have nipples. Okay. But the whole group was convinced that he did. But I was like, no, because aliens, why would they have nipples? And also, he doesn't have a belly button. And I was like, it's like Kyle XY. And so he's been on my mind.
That's the most I've thought about Kyle XY since 2001. Right. Probably.
Same.
That's so funny. Oh my God.
Yeah. Did you know the original Starbucks logo had nipples on it, though?
What?
I haven't looked it up, but...
And that logo's changed a lot, too, because it's a siren, not a mermaid.
Right.
So it had, I think, does it have one tail or two now? Two?
Oh, I don't even know.
Sirens allegedly have two tails, like, in some lore. I can't remember, but the number of tails that it has now, it's the opposite before.
Right. Okay, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, the first one, it's a topless lady with two tails. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Nipples are present.
with titties.
Yeah, exactly.
So D-I-D-D.
Yeah. Exactly.
So freaking funny. Wow.
But let's see. I think
strange children, strange adults. Let's go.
Yeah. We're just strange throughout.
Strange throughout, all like lifetime strange.
Yes. The last little quote I pulled out of that New York Times article was they interviewed somebody else. I don't have her full name, but they wrote, Miss Jackson compared people who do not recognize indigos to muggles. The name used in Harry Potter.
Small
And
magic folk, as
yeah,
Hagrid says.
she said,
That is
I would
hilarious.
say 90% of the world is like the muggles. You don't talk about this stuff with them because it's going to scare them, is what she said.
Oh
So,
my god. Honestly, not wrong.
no, but I ain't
She
no
could talk to us
muggle.
about it though. We're not
Yeah,
we're not muggles. We're
no,
not muggles. We're
definitely
witches.
not. I have my mind wide open to
Yeah,
literally
exactly.
all of
My
this.
my third eye is wide open.
Yeah, exactly.
Blinking.
Yep.
Ah, silly. Wow. That's so interesting though, the Indigo Children thing. That's very interesting. And it would explain a lot of like, well, it might not be the same thing, but kids who like remember how they died
Yeah.
in their past life,
Yeah,
or like, oh, my
definitely.
mom flew before, and the parents
Uh-huh.
were like, huh?
What? Yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah. I came across so many of those stories
Oh my god.
also.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
crazy.
pointing out the window, like, this is where I died before. It's like,
Literally. Oh
okay,
my god.
stop
Like, yeah,
talking.
I burned in that
Yeah.
building, and you're like, what? You're two. What do you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah,
Scary.
that's wild, dude.
Yeah.
Well,
Yikes.
shit. Well, our next episode, you guys, is episode 100. You
Oh my
believe?
god. Wow.
Yeah, which
I
is
lost
so
track.
crazy. I know,
Yeah.
me too. And then the one after that is only a couple days after Valentine's Day, so we may have to do
Oh,
some scary
yeah.
stories.
Oh, yeah. We need
Yeah,
to. Yep.
I'm excited. But yeah, thank you for listening. You can email us your scary stories at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. Follow us on social at Girls Gone Spooky, basically everywhere. And we'll see you next week. And in the meantime, stay spooky.
Stay spooky. Bye.